Hey there, this is Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. This is actually Christians and conspiracies today, but there's just one of me, so it's just Christian. Uh, I had a person pull out last minute, but we'll just soldier on, as it were. Belmont is, unfortunately, his computer went, you know, which is what happens when you download porn. Anyway. We don't know if it was porn or not, anyway, it killed his computer, whatever it was. Anyway, so I was like, I'm going to do Easter with the bunny this week. It's going to be like all Easter themed, not just the bunny rabbit or Easter bunny, but I wanted to do some like the reason for the season, the kind of like the underlying reason we have this holiday. I'm trying not to get too quote unquote religious tonight. I'm just gonna kind of like talk about. Hold on one second. What's up, heathens? All right, whatever. All right, Red. All right, Todd. Yeah, already being judgmental over there. Goodness gracious. Anyway, all right. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the crucifixion controversy. Okay, the biggest controversy in probably the world history. There's at one point before they decided to adjust things a little while ago. I don't know when it happened. All of a sudden, instead of BC and AD, I started saying AES or whatever that means. AE, I don't know I don't even know what that means. But we had BC before Christ, and then the Anno Domini in the year of our Lord, the Julian calendar. So anyway, this event kind of like was the center point to history, kind of like the dividing line, mainly because the church became so powerful at one point that they were able to like adjust everything to kind of like suit them. But anyway, this is pretty controversial because there's all sorts of theories and theorems, and people have been speculating on this, and there's people with doctorates. I was going to have some clips to show today, but I couldn't find um, like short, concise, like bullet point, videos. Most of them were like these long, rambling talks. Well, I found one a little while ago, but because of events that happened to me in the last 45 minutes, I was unable to like render the video and upload it. So I'm not going to be able to show you that one, but it's Lee Strobel, Strobel. I always called him Strobel. But it's the 4 E's. And we're gonna like go over those. But he was he went to college for journalism and also went to school for law, and wound up at one point pretty high up in the Chicago Tribune. Um, was a rabid atheist. I'm saying rabid because he wasn't kind of atheist to allow anybody near him to profess Christ without being immediately attacked. And and his wife suddenly professed her faith to him, and he was ready to divorce her, but he thought, oh no. He says, because I'm this brilliant Pulitzer Prize winning uh you know journalist, I'm gonna just go ahead and take a weekend and rip this whole Christianity thing apart with my advanced journalism skills. You can look it up. There's a movie made on him called The Case for Christ. He wrote a book called The Case for Christ, and he does talks all the time. You can find him anywhere on the YouTube. Just Lee Strobel Case for Christ. It'll come right up. Unfortunately, I had it like I was going to divide it succinctly into like 4 different videos, but you know, thing happens last minute, as things tend to when you, um, from time to time. But so basically, I was going to I want to talk a little bit about that, and while I was doing my research, I ran into some other things, like particularly some research about the Shroud of Turin, which I found really fascinating. I watched a 3 hour. I didn't watch it, but I listened to a 3 hour video last night while I was working my dead end job in the middle of the night. But of a priest who actually does a I think he said it was a course on the shroud itself. That's so much to learn about the shroud that they actually have a course that you can take, and it's like an undergraduate course you can take. Um, we'll talk about that. Talk about conspiracies. There's a pretty large one having to do with that particular artifact. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But first of all, we're going to talk about why is this so controversial? Oh, hello. Hey, man. What's up, dude? Hello, Genuine. Hey, anybody wants to come in, man, I'll send you a link. I'll talk to anybody. But so why is this so controversial? Well, it all has to do with the personhood of a certain individual who's born in Nazareth. Not Nazareth, but born in Bethlehem, grew up in Nazareth. He's known as Jesus of Nazareth. And he is someone who called themselves the Son of God, the Messiah. He fulfilled a lot of prophecies in the Old Testament. Actually, fulfilled all the prophecies of the Old Testament, to a ridiculous extent. But he, he's born where they said was going to be born. He was born when they said he was going to be born. He was born to who they said he was going to be born to. They have his genealogy going all the way back. He's the only complete genealogy that the Jews have, because the temple was burned down where all the genealogies were kept. So because of the preservation of the Bible, it's the only genealogy we have. And he goes all the way back through mother and father, the maternal and the paternal line, all the way back. Okay. So that's found in Matthew. And basically he, for 3 years, 3 1/3, I guess, if you want to be specific, 3 Passovers, he had a ministry all in Judea and Galilee. And because he was a Galilean, you could see visually that he was a Galilean. He had some kind of like a skin color, complexion or something that let people know that he was instantly, when they looked at him, that he was Galilean. So so that means that Jesus might have been darker skinned, might have curly hair or something like that. Oh, Belmont is here. What's up, man? All right, smoke them if you got them. Joke. Anyway, I'm sure he already is. Anyway, all right. So this individual who met all the criterion, met all the historical criterion, which is both in the Jewish text and also as well as the Bible, and why they don't acknowledge him as the Messiah. I mean, you have to ask them. But he met all the criterion, but they were looking for an earthly kingdom, and he did not have an earthly kingdom. As a matter of fact, he said, "My kingdom is not from of this world." But the fact that some people call him a good man is also a misnomer. C.S. Lewis said it best, that if he did not give you the leeway to call him a good man, because He said that I'm a son of God. I am the son of God. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so, i.e., he was either who he said he was, or he was a madman, or worse, the con artist. There's no way you can, where in between. It's kind of I guess that's what makes it so controversial, is because he's such a, uh, kind of binary figure. Okay, it's either you believed he was who he said he was, or you believe he was a madman, or a con artist. He didn't really leave a lot of room in between. So, so this individual, very controversial, spent a lot of time making very powerful enemies in Judea, all 3 and 3rd year. He messed with the temple, which got the Pharisees mad at him. He messed with the scholarship, which got the Sadducees mad at him. He raised a ruckus in the streets, which got the Romans mad at him. And he just pretty much, you want to talk about somebody walking into a situation and stirring it up. He did just that. And so, if you believe that he was just a man, then you also are of the opinion that 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 these political maneuverings got him killed. Now, if you're a Christian and you believe the scripture, you know that this was all planned. This is pretty much even his own betrayer was someone he picked. And everything that he did his entire 33 years of existence was like clockwork, happened just like he wanted it to happen. And because of that, there's a dividing line. You if you believe the scripture, believe what the scripture says, then that those accounts pretty much portray someone as being in control of their fate and choosing what happened to them, which once we get into that, or let's get into that, what happened to this individual that called himself Jesus, the Messiah. Well, he was betrayed by one of his 12 disciples. I mean, he only had 12 disciples, and one of them was a ringer. Said that he was a devil from the beginning. Said that, I played him. Ironically, I played Judas during our Passion Play this last weekend, and kind of gave me a unique perspective on Judas, especially since one of my favorite pastors, we've got 4, and he's definitely one of my favorites. But he has a kind of a baby face, and I was betraying him every night, and it got a little tough to look him right in the eye, because he and I had this thing going on, this unspoken agreement that that he was going to he and Judas were going to meet eyes, and kind of he was going to give me the chance all the way to the end to anyway. Hold on a second. Redshift Comic says he knew when he were laying down palm leaves and singing to him that he's heading for his crucifixion. Yeah. By the same people. The same people were laying down palm leaves were the same that yelled crucify him. Had to be. There's really not that many people in Jerusalem. So the same people that were, shouting Hosanna were shouting crucify him by the end of the week. So we are fickle people. But yeah, so playing that Judas part, it kind of gave me an insight to that he really was, that he kind of everything was orchestrated, everything was the way he planned. Which let's continue on. The betrayal happened in the Garden of Gethsemane after a night of intense prayer. Prayer so intense that he was bursting capillaries under his skin from stress, and drops of blood were coming out, which is it's in the scripture that, and this is it's an actual thing that can happen under intense duress. People can actually be so tense, so filled with dread that their capillaries will burst, and it'll come out through their sweat glands. So when that happens, though, it makes the skin even more sensitive, and so when Judas came and gave him the kiss, it probably hurt even more than just the emotional of somebody he poured his life into. It's somebody who I think he honestly had a choice all the way up to the end and chose to betray him. I don't believe in predestination. I believe Judas had a choice all the way up to the end. But so the betrayal happened. Immediately, he was taken into custody, and the disciples just scattered. Okay. These men, like Peter, Peter said, "I'll go to the grave for you," and he's like, Peter, you're gonna betray me. You're gonna deny you know me 3 times before the rooster crows. And Peter did it, man. Peter denied him. The last time, though, interesting little artifact. I think it's found in Matthew's. Might have been Luke. But one of the Gospels, it says the last time that Peter denied knowing him, he was in the courtyard and their eyes met. So this is somebody who said, "I'll go to the grave for you. I'll fight all the way to the end." Even cut off somebody's ear. Ready to swing a sword. And he didn't even do that right. He just cut off the guy's ear. And Jesus is kind of like, picks up the ear, puts it back on the guy's head. I mean, he couldn't even do that right. Then he denies him 3 times, and the rooster crows, and he realizes what he's done. But the trial didn't go well. They were they started beating on him almost as soon as he came into custody. Started punching him, putting a blindfold on him and punching him and saying, "Do you know who punched you?" Started beating the snot out of him right away, pulling his beard out and things like that. And then he goes before Pontius Pilate, and Pontius Pilate's an interesting cat in the story. He Pontius was kind of like the reluctant functionary. It had to go through him, and they had him leveraged to the hilt. He had to keep a lid on Judea, and there was the religious leaders saying, "We're going to riot. If you don't do this, we're going to riot." And he had people behind him to back it up. Had the crowd behind him, and so he tried to do the whole, I'm innocent of this man's blood, and wash his hands, and take him away, crucify him, and crucifixion. So we get to the crucifixion. Okay, now this is where the controversy comes in. All right. Now I don't the crucifixion. Some of the controversies. Oh, hey Kate. Hey there, lady. Thank you for coming in. This is where the controversy starts coming in. Okay. So now, there's this elephant in the room. He says that he's not only is he the Son of God, but that he's going to come back after 3 days. As he'll be in the bowels of the earth, and he'll come back in 3 days. That he's going to resurrect, and so that's so basically, if he says he is who he says he is, then that would have taken place. And so that's where the controversy comes in. Okay, this individual. All right, first controversy: did he exist? Is there like factual evidence that he existed? Yes. There's a lot of collaboration that he existed in, not just the Bible, but there's a lot of sources like Josephus, Tacitus, several other people who weren't Christian, were kind of anti-Christian, who acknowledged that yes, this man did exist. There is records, that of other sources that yes, he did exist. So this man named Jesus did exist. Okay, did they execute him? All right. You heard he was Italian. That's fake news. That's fake news. Anyway, we got the Jewish line going all the way back to Adam. So if that's faked, they did a really incredible job. Anyway, so basically, did he exist? Yes. Did he get executed? Yes. Yes. The Romans were pretty clear about who they executed, and he was definitely executed. And the way he was executed is one of the most brutal forms of execution that's ever been conceived by man. Might be the most brutal. The more you learn about crucifixion, the more brutal it gets, the more violent and painful it gets. This was a method of execution that left no doubt. You were tortured, and you died, and you died horribly. And it's the way they did things back in Roman. The way they maintained control of their kingdom was they executed people in such a way that people stayed in line because they were terrified. But even before he got to the cross, he was scourged. And a lot of people didn't even survive that. But he was scourged almost twice as much as normal. Pilate was trying to Pilate was trying to save his life, and thought if he hurt him bad enough, maybe that they would let him live. And so Pilate had him scourged, and he was the scourging. If you ever get a chance to see the Passion of the Christ, the scourging scene is one of the most horrible things to watch that I've ever experienced in my life. It was, I saw it in the theater with a friend of mine, and he was a sensitive guy, and he was just like hurting. He was just hurting to watch it, and I was hurting for him because he's a sensitive guy. But it's one of the toughest things to watch. They got it right. I mean, they really did their research. If you want to know the scourging of Christ, that's pretty much it. But the Shroud of Turin says that the scourging didn't only just happen with one soldier. It happened with a shorter soldier and a taller soldier. And they both went at him. Both just tore him up. And so, hold on 1 second. Okay, in Orlando, Pilate's wife even had a dream saying he was innocent. Yeah, she definitely warned him that this man was innocent and that he should let him go. But Pilate's hands were pretty much tied. He gets back from the scourging, okay, and they put a robe on him, which is even more horrendous because on top of all those wounds, they put a robe on him, which would have been painful. And then they decided, let's even funnier. Let's get this big old bush over here that's got thorns this long, and let's just make him a helmet and shove it down on his head. It wasn't a crown; it was a circlet. It was a helmet. When the Shroud of Turin has a record of thorn holes all in his head and all in his scalp. So that was more of a helmet than it was a circlet. And the reason why I keep quoting this route of Turin, I'll talk about it in a little bit. But anyway, so this brutal form of punishment, they finally it gets to Golgotha. He carries his crossbeam. He didn't carry the whole T. He carried the crossbeam because that's the way things were done. And they found on this route of Turin places where it braided his shoulder, And they also found that his nose was broken, and it had on its on the tip of his nose. They found like soil that would only be in that part of Judea. It's very specific to that part of Judea, almost like a fingerprint. So when he fell underneath the weight of the T, he went flat. He went face down. So he didn't catch himself. He went. I mean, he couldn't catch himself. So he just went right on the ground. And so he was already in like 7 different kinds of shock. He always had blood loss. He already had horrific injuries. If you went on a motorcycle and got up to about 65 miles an hour and laid it down and just rode the asphalt for about a half a mile, you would have less injury than he did at this point. All right, Corey. Belmont is in the chat, but Belmont's computer went kaput. And so I took it over for the day. It's Christians and Conspiracies today. We're talking about the Crucifixion controversy. This was all in the tweet. All of it. Anyway. So, mahalo. All right. So no Belmont today. You can always come back next week. He'll be here next week. But anyway. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. All right. So he basically was, he had taken up to the hill, and when he was nailed to the crossbeam, they put the crossbeam, slotted it into the T, and combined it and put that together. And then when they put the nails through him, they did not put it through here, which is I appreciate it. Fair enough. It sounds like his computer's been dying for a while. Yeah, I think that thing was on his last legs, I guess. Too much porn. That's my theory. Anyway, so he's got those pot girls somehow. He found those pot girls somehow. I'm just saying. Anyway, so they nailed him through here. Okay. Now, when you the way they would have located it is if you put your finger and your thumb together and bend it like that, you'll have a dentition right there. See that? Okay. Now, that through there is one of the most terrific nerves in your body. Okay. People with its injury to this nerve have committed suicide. It was so painful. But they put a 9-inch nail, 9-inch spike right through there. Okay. Now, what that does is this whole body, this whole bony structure right here, that would support right there, and all the tendons and everything in there. Your hand would probably curl up like this. They didn't mind doing permanent damage because you're not coming off of there. So, that's where they nailed him, right through there. Okay. Now this is confirmed by the Shroud of Turin. That the injury on the Shroud of Turin is confirmation that that's where they nailed him. Anyway, and so he was there with all those horrific injuries. He was there for yeah, very painful. As a matter of fact, that's the carpal tunnel nerve is in there. And anybody that's had carpal tunnel will tell you that that once you have that, you never quite, the pain is there the rest of your life. And so those pain, nail right through there. So he hung there for 3 hours, give or take. And so he conducted business while he was up there. There's all these sayings, the things he did, He forgave one of the thieves that was on the cross with him, signed his mother to John, made all these pronouncements that were pretty well recorded. And then at the end of 3 hours, he gave up the ghost. He surrendered his spirit. How he survived that long is pretty amazing. Took an act of will, like few people possess, to make it that far. And so the other controversy, let me address the other controversy is, did he die? Did he die? Nobody has ever survived a crucifixion. And all the times the Romans crucified people, no one ever survived a crucifixion. Jesus is no exception. Okay. So how do we know this? All right. Now we know this because after he expired, said it is finished, according to scriptural record, said it is finished and passed away. A Roman soldier came after he'd been still a while, probably about a half an hour, thereabouts, about a half an hour. Anyway, I'm not even sure what that comment is, but I'll leave it to Belmont. But they jabbed a spear in his side. It's later called the spear of Longinus, the spear of destiny. According to artifact record. But when he did that, they pierced him right here in the rib, and it would have pierced the pericardial sac, which basically there's people that die all the time from congestive heart failure. And that's the pericardial sac around the body, or around the heart. Okay. So when they pierced that, anyway, hold on a second. Somewhat dark earthquake, inner court tapestry was ripped in two. Yeah. All that happened. Survived New York. What a hellhole. Okay. And notification just told me this happened. I missed the beginning recap. We're talking about the controversial life and death of Jesus, the crucifixion. So pretty much everything is a record. I haven't really, revealed anything that wasn't in record. But okay, so when they pierced him, pierced the pericardial sac, what flowed out was blood and water. Okay, that's how we know he's been dead at least a half an hour, because the blood and the water separated, began to separate, and so you're not surviving that. Okay, even if he was not dead at that moment, even if he was in a swoon, okay, which is one of the theories is he was in a swoon, okay, that he'd been damaged so much that he went in comatose, and that's not possible. It's not possible. It's just not possible. Okay. First of all, the Romans knew what dead looks like because they'd killed a lot of people. Romans would not have mistaken a swoon. Okay. As a matter of fact, there were things that Romans did to people that were unconscious on Crüe. Well, first of all, if you're unconscious, you're not pushing up, you're suffocating. which is what the crucifix did. Was it caused suffocation? Most people died of suffocation. So yeah, even if he was playing dead, even if he's unconscious, if he was in a swoon, he would have, there's no way they would have been faked out by that. Mainly because he would, to hang limp, he would have been suffocating. The only way to for him to like continue living is to push up. That's the only way. And we know he wasn't living because the pericardial sac was pierced and water and blood came out. That is the sign of somebody's been dead for a half an hour or more. Okay. So the other theory is that, oh, well, he might have died temporarily, but it's like maybe had a out of body experience, near death or whatever, but he revived, spontaneously revived later, which happens. Okay. It's happened before. But that little detail, and the gospels are parallel in this. The gospels are very clear that water and blood came out when he was pierced. Okay. He's dead. Dead as a doornail. He's dead. Okay. So that part of the crucifixion conspiracy. Okay. Now this is agreement. This is people are in agreement of this. Okay. Let me bring this up. I was hoping to have a clip, but I got distracted last minute and wasn't able to get it all downloaded. But here you go. This the same guy. This is from the same guy that I was going to talk about, or I was going to get a clip from. His name's Lee Strobel. Who was Lee Strobel? He was a journalist. Also had a law degree, and he was pretty high up in Chicago Tribune, and he was a big wig. Big wheel there. He had won a Pulitzer already at this point in his life, and he went to disprove because his wife professed faith and he was an atheist, and he basically wanted to like destroy her faith. He says he just wanted to destroy your faith. Wound up coming to Christ because of his research, but he basically he boils it all down to the 4 E's. Let me go ahead and talk about the 4 E's here. All right, the first one is the execution. All right. Now, sources outside the Bible confirm Jesus was at least executed. Okay. All right. Now, if you want somebody that's non-Christian, Gert Luderman is a atheist, New Testament scholar. He out of Vanderbilt University, and he calls it indisputable. So this is somebody who really, if he had a chance to dispute it, would have, but he can't. So that's because we not only have multiple early accounts of his death in the New Testament, but we also got 5 ancient sources outside of the Bible that confirm his execution. Okay. And no wonder the peer-reviewed Journal of American Medical Association concluded clearly the weight of the historical and medical evidence indicates Jesus was dead before the wound in his side was inflicted. Okay, that's American Medical Association, the journal. So this is not. We're not talking about a source, a religious source. We're not talking about somebody who's a religious scholar, somebody who has I guess skin in the game to keeping up. Jesus. The legend of Jesus, if you believe it's a legend. So this is somebody who has legitimate skin in the game, or doesn't have skin in the game. It's American Medical Associates journal, peer-reviewed journal, says that he was definitely dead. He's absolutely dead. They did a research. They got together some doctors, and so they definitely confirmed that, yeah, he's dead as a doornail. All right. So that's 1E. Okay. Now this is where the controversy starts coming in. All right. Now, so it's pretty clear that he was dead. Okay, he was dead. All right. Pretty clear. That's not really in dispute. What's in dispute is what happened after. Okay. Now this is where the water gets a little muddy. Okay. It's at least a lot of people muddy the waters. A lot of people, have their theories and stuff like that. Okay, but what we do know is that he said he was going to resurrect after 3 days. Okay, he made that claim. All right, and it's there's like a president in Jewish theology for someone coming back from the grave and back from the dead after 3 days. As That's just so they're like, okay, well, they went to Pilate. All right, went to this poor Pilate guy. This guy just wants to be done with this. Washed his hands of it, and they're like saying, all right, one more thing from you. We need you to. They took Jesus's body. Okay, there's some dispute that people's like, oh, they threw the bodies away. They let the animals have the bodies. That was part of it. But there's a special dispensation that would be given in Judea, especially because Judeans had burial rights. And so, other parts of the Roman Empire, yeah, they threw them on piles. They just threw them in mass graves. They want people to think that there's anything special about them. So, but Jesus in particular, we know the guy was rich enough, connected enough that he could acquire Jesus's body and put it in his own personal tomb. Okay, so that's not really a lot in dispute either. Okay, and all right, well, anyway, I'm just going to ignore the chat. All right, they're having a conversation over there without me. All right, anyway, okay, so. So basically, he was in his tomb. All right. Now, what we do know is that Joseph's family used that tomb later. Okay. You can't use, anyway. No catacombs for the King of Kings. Yeah. Well, Judea didn't have catacombs, but it is what it is. But yeah, but we knew that Joseph Arimathea, that was a family's tomb. Only rich people had them. His family had one, and that it was a one-use tomb, and it was used again after supposedly there's a body in there, which so we know that much. All right. So evidently there wasn't a body in there anymore. Okay. Now they went to Pilate. Pilate put a seal of the Roman Empire on the boulder that was rolled to the door of the tomb. Okay. Now what's that mean? The seal of the Roman Empire means if you break that seal, then the Roman Empire will come down on you. The most powerful entity in the world at that time, if you met that. Okay. Now, the theory that the disciples could have come and rolled the stone away from the tomb is laughable. Okay, because we're talking about some guys who were so uncoordinated that when it came time to defend Jesus, the one guy that brought a sword took a guy's ear off. I mean, we're talking Keystone Cops here. We're not talking about a well-oiled machine that could have taken out Roman soldiers, pushed a big rock away from the door that took multiple people to push. We're talking about a bunch of yahoos who scattered as soon as Jesus was taken into custody, they all off, and they weren't coordinated, they weren't organized to say that they could have snuck in the middle of the night, somehow got the rock out from the door, and took his body and whisked it away. It's laughable. Okay, it's laughable. It really is. But somebody came in, and the Roman soldiers were floored. Knocked on their butts. They played dead. Hardened Roman soldiers played dead. And somebody, some being, something, rolled the tomb away, or rolled stone away from the tomb. We know that. I mean, that happened. And the body that was in there was gone. Okay. Now, the Pharisees themselves, admit that the tomb was empty, because they said that, oh, well, we've got to spread this rumor that the disciples took the body. Why would they do that? Why would they even draw attention to it unless it had gotten around that the tomb was empty? They were in that mode. The only reason that you give a cover-up story is if the other story's already out among the people. Okay? And so their story was out that the tomb was empty. Okay? Now, all right. Now, I believe in the Shroud of Turin. Okay? Yes, I know that in the 1988, thereabouts, a bunch of people got together and supposedly did a carbon 12 or carbon 14 evaluation of the shroud, and they dated it somewhere in the medieval times. Now, since has been debunked, but even though every single major newspaper outlet covered that it was dated to the medieval times, nobody hardly covered the fact that later on they proved that the part that they took their sample from was added later. Through it's called an invisible seam. It was done back then, and it took a lot of patience. It took a lot of time, but these were nuns that did this. Okay, nuns have a lot of patience and a lot of time. Okay, and a lot of skill. But what happened was they took apart the end, the damaged end, and then they took another strip of cloth and they wove it. They took threads out of it and then they wove them together. Okay. And that's the part that they took their samples from. Okay. So, in other words, the carbon 14 test that they did was bunk. Okay. Proven to be bunk. All right. Now, if the Shroud of Turin is actually an artifact, which I believe it to be, there's so many things about the Shroud of Turin that they can't even replicate today. They can't replicate it. Okay. The fact is that the Shroud of Turin is actually a photo negative. The amount of light, the amount of energy that would have took to create this photo negative on the linen is not something we can replicate. They've tried multiple times. And they've had people that have tried decades to replicate this, and they can't replicate it. Okay. Because the image that you see on the Shroud of Turin is less than the fourth of a hair deep on the cloth. Okay. Now, the only reason that they discovered that they knew there was an image on the cloth, but they didn't know how detailed the image was until one of the first photographic images ever taken was taken of the of the Shroud of Turin. And the guy, when he went into the dark room to develop the film, discovered that it's a 3-dimensional image. And you've seen the picture. If you've seen anything about the Shroud of Turin, the image on the Shroud of Turin is a 3-dimensional image. Okay. Now, how does that even possible? In other words, if you take the Shroud of Turin and put it into, there's a computer that they use to map the dimensions of planets. Okay. NASA uses it to basically take flat images of planets and map them into 3 dimensions. Okay. So this is piece of software. It's a heck of a piece of software where they put the Shroud of Turin through that piece of software, and they got a raised image of a human being. That basically a normal photograph wouldn't work with this apparatus. There has to be an image. There has to be a 3-dimensional quality to the image for it to work. And so the Shroud of Turin is 3-dimensional image on a hair's breadth deep. I mean, less than a hair deep on this cloth. And so basically, what is the Shroud? That's why I believe in the Shroud. I believe in it. Okay. But what does the Shroud tell us? The Shroud tells us multiple things about the crucifixion. First of all, the death he took was worse than we thought. Even with all the accounts and even with our imaginations, the damage that was done to the body on the Shroud of Turin was worse than anything we conceived. Okay. And also, there's a lot of artifacts on the Shroud, but there's the fact that the Shroud, the image on the Shroud exists means that some kind of energy, like a flash of incredibly bright light, created an after image, turned an after image onto the Shroud of Turin. Now, the way a photo works is, they used to have to like blow flash powder to get an image. Is the way it works is the film. This is back before digital. Okay, this is back in the old age, right? But they would the flash would basically light up the image bright enough that it would affect the photographic plate and create the light coming off of it would create an image on the photographic plate. And so this what happened with Shroud of Turin was photography before photography existed, before photography was even conceived of. But by the way, all those laboratories, you want to talk about conspiracies? All those laboratories, after they denounced the Shroud of Turin, had their budgets had their budgetary needs met for the conceivable future. They all were able to expand their laboratories and hire more employees and things like that afterwards. So that happened. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody disprove the Shroud of Turin if there's nothing to it? About conspiracies, there's your conspiracy right there. All right. Anyway. So I'm just trying to pronounce. I'm trying to give out facts. I'm trying to trying to paint a picture here that what happened with this. First of all, this crucifixion did happen. It definitely did happen, and it definitely happened to this man who did exist. And afterward, the followers who had scattered to the winds, run away, and had not any kind of contestation whatsoever. Afterwards, those people suddenly started preaching boldly that he lived, said that they all saw him. Over 500 people said that they saw him, and so reached out to the world and changed everything. There's before him and there's after him. Okay, if nothing else, why would these people live in deprivation, get beaten, run out of town, canceled, and in a lot of cases brutally murdered, uh, and at the point of a sword, told to denounce this Jesus of Nazareth, and they refused. So that's befuddling. Okay, if you're somebody who doesn't believe in this person, believe that this person was the Son of God, what's really befuddling, what's really confusing, is the actions of these eyewitnesses afterwards. Now, Davidians. Do you hear of any Branch Davidians now? Post David Koresh? I haven't heard of any Branch Davidians since David Koresh burned down in Waco. People's Temple. Did it survive Jim Jones? Anybody know about the temple? Is there People's Temple somewhere? Anybody know of one? No? Okay. Now, the one exception is L. Ron Hubbard. Scientology survived L. Ron Hubbard, but they still think he's coming back. They still think he's alive somewhere. And to Christianity, people are convinced this guy's alive somewhere, and that and people are professing faith in him every day. There's new people professing faith. This is a very alive religion. It's not an ancient artifact. It's reality. There's at one point in the world, it dominated the world at one point. I mean, back in they call them the Dark Ages, but the church was like controlling everything, but it was the Christian church. So somehow this individual, this insignificant person from Galilee, became the most pivotal person in world history. And no matter how many different things that they say about it, no matter how many theories that they have, can anybody really explain why he's still relevant? He lived 33 and a half years and was murdered by one of the most brutal ways possible. And if buried somewhere, it just makes no sense. Babylon B did a skit that you need to watch, where all the all the followers of Christ were like together, and they're like, yeah, I've got an idea. He's like, oh, okay, what we're gonna do? It's like, let's go steal his body. And they're like, yeah, and they get brutally murdered. It's like one of them's like John plays John. He's like, wait a second, what? It's like, yeah, steal his body. It'd be real great. It'd be like a joke on the world, They'll think he's still alive somewhere, and then it's like and to make sure people don't like, that people go along with the joke. We'll all get murdered. We'll all get martyred. Go to our graves, professing that he's still alive somewhere. Isn't that funny? And everybody's like laughing, and this John guy, the guy playing John, is like, wait a second. What's in this for us? And it's like, absolutely nothing. But won't it be funny? And it's like, But yeah. So here we are. We got a religion observance coming up this weekend. We're still talking about him. He's still on the calendar. And the crucifixion, we know it happened. We know it happened to this guy. And we know he's still relevant today. That's the things that are indisputable. So if he was not who he said he was, then that's a little confusing. That's even more confusing, you know. Anyway, as for look into it. There's Pints with Aquinas that he did a 3-hour talk with the guy whose entire life is studying the shroud, and it's a very fascinating conversation. One might even say, as a Christian, it's very uplifting. I won't lie. I'm in the middle of my job last night, and I'm tearing up, especially when he got to talking about the damage that was done to that body that's under shroud. You know, it's way beyond anything I even conceived of. I mean, I watched the Passion of the Christ, and I thought I kind of had a handle on what the kind of damage that they did to him, because I mean they did a real good job in that movie and they did the research. But no, I didn't. Anyway, so look at it. Pints with Aquinas. It's called New Information About the Shroud of Turin. Look it up. It's a really clever, really incredible conversation. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Anybody have any questions or anything like that? Please feel free to DM me. I'm at Telepathic Bunny on the Twitter. Next week we'll be back. Now I believe Belmont said that he wanted to do something about the American space program. I don't know. On it, topic are the painted Easter eggs from the red glowing egg in the Book of Magdalene. Do you hear a more definitive answer? Red glowing egg in the Book of Magdalene. No, I don't really know anything about that. That's apocryphal book. I don't know much about the apocryphal part of things. Anyway, secret space program, American space program. That's what's going to be next week. All right, hold on. But so as I say, that was a good answer. Right, gotcha. Romans sealed the tomb out of fear of the Jews. I think you mean Jews. Pretty sure. Secret space program. All right, yeah. That's what we're going to do. Secret space program. And Belmont will be back. The Cannabis will be back. You won't have to deal with a rambling Christian talking about his faith. But next week we'll have that back for you. Belmont should have his computer by this weekend. He wants to do a 10K like celebration. So pay attention to that. He's going to post that as soon as he can. Anyway, I'm sorry, Belmont. Yeah, I'm Chris. Yeah, I got you, man. Hey, LT Bunny. Hey, man. I didn't mean to say that he's not Christian, but he's kind of the thing. Anyway, all right, hold on a second. Jason Black says it's apocryphal or very old fake. It's a very good story. Some king didn't believe Jesus is risen, commanded an egg to glow red if it was true. Oh, okay. All right. Well, good job. All right. Thank you. All right. Advertising. The 10K stream is going to be Saturday night. There you go. Make sure you guys don't miss that. Before that, I plan on doing a love stream, so I'm gonna have that one up pretty shortly. Anyway, boo Belmont. All right, Belmont will be back next week. All right. don't worry, Corey. You know, your favorite guy will be back next week. You know, anyway. So that's all I got for the day. Thank you guys for coming and listen to me ramble for a little while. But once again, I hope this weekend that you will find your way to service somewhere, and you know, because it is Easter. But anyway, that's all I got. Let me go ahead and go out. So, y'all, remember here at Cannabis and Conspiracies, we don't draw any conclusions. We try to give you the facts so you can draw your conclusions. Because here at the Cannabis and Conspiracies, the truth is high. So, have a good week, guys. Bye, everybody.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.